Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing well. So in the last chapter we just studied how to write our first program, that was Hello World, and we studied about why um JavaScript is so popular, why it is the desired language to be used in web development, and we installed the Node.js, that is basically taking the runtime JavaScript engine out of the browser and installing it on our computer so that we can run JavaScript locally without the need for computer. So today we will be going ahead with the chapter 2, that is the lexical structure. The lexical structure of a programming language is a set of elementary rules that specifies how we write programs in that language. It is the lowest level syntax of a language. It specifies what variables names look like, what delimiter, characters, comments, and how one program statement is separated from the next. For example, this short chapter document the lexical structure of a JavaScript. So basically the lexical structure, by what he's trying to say, is basically those are rules that mention how we can write that language. So the important things that a lexical uh, structure contains is given. One is case sensitivity, spaces, line breaks, identifiers, reserved words, Unicode operations, semicolons, etc. The text of a JavaScript program. Now, JavaScript is a case sensitive language. This means that language variables, functions, and identifiers must always type with a consistent capitalization of letters. So this is case sensitive. That means if I write VAR in capital and VAR in small, those are both different. So what he's saying is while here and this while, these two are two different things. These are not the same things. Now JavaScript ignores spaces between the tokens in programmings. For the most part, JavaScript also ignores line breaks because you can use spaces and new lines in your programs. You can format and indent your programs in a neat and consistent way that makes it go. So basically it will ignore the spaces and we can indent our code properly, which makes it more readable. In addition to regular space characters, JavaScript also recognizes tabs, assorted ASCII control characters, and various Unicode characters at white space. Now JavaScript recognizes new lines, carries returns, a carriage return line fade sequence as line terminators. So basically how will the line be ending? In comments. Now JavaScript supports two strands of comments. Now any text between slash slash and the end of a line is treated as a comment. Okay, now these are, suppose if I write this and if I come and execute this, you see nothing, this won't be executed since this is a comment. Any text between a slash slash and the end of a line is treated as a comment and is ignored by JavaScript. Any text between characters is also, and there is one more way, which is to have this. Also, this is also treated as a comment. This is the difference between is, this is the difference between these two comment is that this is a single line comment and this is a multi-line comment. Yeah, this is a single line comment, this is a multi-line comment. Now literals. Now literal is a data value that appears directly in a program. anything. This can be 12, 1.2, all these are literals. Now identifiers and reserved words. Now identifier is simply a name in JavaScript. It is used to name constant variables, functions and classes, and to provide labels for certain loops in JavaScript. A JavaScript identifier must begin with a letter and an underscore or a dollar sign. Subsequent characters can be letters, digits, underscores, or dollar signs. Okay, this is basically what name can be put to identify. So it can be this, it can be underscore, and it can be a dollar sign as well. I don't know why it's not getting underlined here properly. Like any language, JavaScript reserves certain identifiers for use by language itself. These are called as reserved words. These cannot be used as regular identifiers. They are listed in the next section. Now reserved words. Now certain words which cannot be used as identifiers are called as reserved words. Now, so these words have specific meaning in the language, so we cannot use them as identifiers. JavaScript also reserves or restricts the use of certain keywords that are not currently used by the language. For example, these are not this. Okay, so there are certain features which are not right now available, but in later versions might be available. So these are not used now. These are also reserved. The Unicode. JavaScript programs are written in Unicode using Unicode set, and you can use any Unicode characters and strings and comments. For portability and ease of editing, it is common to use only ASCII letters and digits identifiers, but this is a programming convention only, and the language allows Unicode letters, digits. I cannot put in emojis in identifiers. This means that programs can use mathematical symbols and words. So you can name this as in pi from English language as constants and variables. Now Unicode escape sequences. Some computer hardware and software cannot display input or correctly process the full set of Unicode characters. To support programmers and systems with older technology, JavaScript defined escape characters that allows us to write Unicode characters using ASCII characters. This Unicode escape begins with /u and are either followed by exactly 4 hexadecimal or by 1 to 6 hexadecimal digits. Enclosed within curly braces, these Unicode escapes may appear in JavaScript string literals, but like regular expression, literals, and identifiers, but not in language keywords. The Unicode escape for character E, for example, here are 3 different ways to write a variable name that includes this character. Oh, so this is defined a variable. Now he's defining this in Unicode. Earlier versions of JavaScript only supported the 4-digit escape sequence. The version with curly braces were introduced in ESX to better support Unicode endpoint operations that requires more than 16 bits, such as emojis. So previously we could not use emojis. Now with the help of Unicode we can represent emojis as well. Now Unicode escapes may also appear in comments, but since comments are ignored, they are simply treated as ASCII characters in that context and are not implemented as Unicode. Unicode normalization. If you use non-ASCII characters in your JavaScript, you must be aware that Unicode allows more than one way of encoding the same character. The string E, for example, can be encoded as a single Unicode character or rather as a regular ASCII followed by acute accent. Combining these two encodings can typically look exactly the same way. This is basically all about Unicode. I mean, he's basically telling how you can define Unicode in JavaScript. Now, optional semicolon, though this is important. Now, in many languages, it is mandatory to use the semicolon to identify that they are termination, but in JavaScript, it's not mandatory. Yeah, so if JavaScript is able to understand that this is a different line, then it won't. There is no need for semicolon. But for example, if a line writing on the same line, then we need to specifically mention the semicolon part. Yeah, here it won't reach the line break. Therefore, without a semicolon, we will get an error over here. Now, types, values, and variables. Now, computer language programs work by manipulating values or the text hello world. These kinds of values can be represented and manipulated in programming languages are known as types. Now, one of the most fundamental characteristics of a programming language is the set of type it supports. When the program needs a value, needs to retain a value for future use, it assigns the value for or stores the value in a variable. Now, variables have names and they allow us the use of those names in a program to refer to values. The way that variable work in other fundamental characteristics. Okay, these are basically telling what all types, values, and variables we have over here. Now, okay, JavaScript comes into primitive and objective types. JavaScript primitive types includes numbers, strings of text, Boolean. Okay. So now what is doing is here. So now types basically what values it can hold. These are divided into two categories. First is primitive. Second is object. In primitives we have, okay, just add multiple line comment. So in primitive we have Boolean. It can be strings, numbers, anything. Okay, and then we have null and undefined. Now these two are not numbers. These are primitive values but are not numbers. Strings or booleans, not numbers. Strings or booleans. Okay. Now each value is typically considered a string type in JavaScript. So in 3.3 we will go in more the further detail about what is happening here. The special JavaScript values nulls and undefined primitives, but they are not numbers or strings. Each value is typically considered to be the sole member of its own types, and more about we'll study more about null and undefined as we go ahead. Now, any JavaScript value that is not a number, string, or okay, or any JavaScript value that is not a number, a string, a boolean, a symbol, a null, or an undefined is object. So anything which does not belong to the above list is an object. Okay. An object is a member of the type. Object is a collection of properties where each property has a name or a value. Either it can be a primitive type, a value, or another object. One very special object is the global object. So one special type of object is An ordinary JavaScript object is an unordered collection of named values. The language also defines a special kind of object known as an array that represents. Okay, now then let's what are. Okay, then. Okay, so first one is basically array. This is an unordered. This is an ordered collection. Okay, and has a name and a value. So now each object will have two things. Will have a property. This will have two things. One is a value, and second is a name. Now an ordinary JavaScript object is an unordered collection of named values. Okay, now the ordinary object is unordered. The language also has a special kind of object known as array. This is a special kind of object that defines an ordered collection. The JavaScript languages include special syntax for working with arrays and have special behavior that distinguish them from ordinary objects. In addition to basic objects, JavaScript also defines other useful objects, useful object types. A set object represents a set of values. Then there is one more. A set object is set of values. A set objects, a map object represents a mapping. Then I have a map object that does mapping from keys to value. Now various typed array types facilitate operations on arrays of bytes and other binary data. The regular expression type represents textual patterns and enables sophistication matching, searching and replacing operations on strings. Now the data type operation represents date and time. Suppose rudimentary date arithmetic. Error and it sometimes represent errors that can arise. Now all of these types are covered in 11. JavaScript differs from most static languages is that functions and classes are not just the syntax, not just part of the language, but they are themselves values that can be maintained by JavaScript. Like any JavaScript value that is not a primitive value, functions and classes are a specialized kind of object. Okay, so functions and classes are also objects in JavaScript. When JavaScript interpreters performs automatic garbage collection for memory management, this means a JavaScript program in general does not know about destruction or decollection of objects or other values. When a value is no longer reachable, when a programmer does not longer has a need to refer it, the interpreter knows it cannot be used again and then automatically reclaims the memory it was occupying. JavaScript programmers do not sometimes need to care and ensure that the values do not inadvertently remain reachable and then therefore non-reclaimable longer than necessary. The Java subject supports an object-oriented programming style. Loosely, this means Rather than having globally defined functions to operate on values, the types themselves define methods for working with values to sort elements. So, for example, now since this is an object, since this is an array object, so then there will be different methods and which will be available on these objects as well. The methods, this will be a bit later. So whenever we use a method in an object, it is called as a method. Oh, sorry, a function in an object is called as a method. Now it is also it's only JavaScript objects that have methods, but number, strings, it is not only JavaScript, but members, strings, boolean, and symbols behave as if they have methods. Okay, numbers, strings also behave that they have methods, but they are primitives. In JavaScript, null and undefined are the only values that methods cannot be invoked on. So we cannot invoke methods on null and undefined. JavaScript's objects types are mutable and its primitive types are immutable. A value of a mutable type can be changed. A JavaScript program can be changed anytime, whereas a immutable one, the JavaScript values cannot change it. For example, a JavaScript program can change the values of object properties, array elements, number, booleans, none and undefined are immutable. So there are two types of objects. One is mutable and its primitive types are immutable. So the primitive types by mean is boolean and other ones, the primitive ones. Those are immutable, but object types are mutable. A mutable type can change, and immutable type cannot change. Now, although strings can be thought as an array of characters, but since they belong to primitives and primitives are immutable, these are we cannot mutate them once created. Now, JavaScript liberally converts values from one type to another. For example, if a program expects a string and you give it a number, it will automatically convert. Okay, so there is something called as automatic conversion that takes place in JavaScript. For example, also now this will also affect the equality operator. For example, the 2 equals and 3 equals. These are two different things. The constants and variables allow to use names to refer to values in our programs. Constants are declared as const and variables are declared with let or with var in older JavaScript code. The JavaScript constants and variables are untyped. Declarations do not specify. Okay, so yeah, this is a untyped language. Do not mention what type of data it will be storing. It is automatically inferred. And depending upon the language, JavaScript does automatic conversion as well. Numbers. Now, JavaScript's primary numeric type. The number is used to represent integers and to approximate real numbers. JavaScript represent numbers using now, which means it can from zero. So the range of numbers that I can represent is this much. Okay, so the JavaScript numbers format allows you to exactly represent all the integers between. So what range numbers can we represent over here? It's given. But if we use integer values larger than this, then we may lose precision in trailing digits. As precision values will be affected over here. When a number directly appears directly in a JavaScript, it's called as a numeric literal. JavaScript's numbers in several formats and are described in the following section. Note that the numeric literal can be preceded by a negative sign to make number negative. The integer literals are base 10. We follow a base 10 integer. In addition to base 10, JavaScript recognizes hexadecimal 6. That is, also this it will automatically do the conversion to 255. This will again do the exact decimal conversion. Now in ES6, we can use binary and octal bases as well as numbers. Now floating point literals. Now floating point can have decimals. Floating point literals may also be represented using exponential notation. So this can be written as 3.1, 3.4 into 10 to power something something. So this is 6.02 e power 23, basically 10 power 23. Similarly, this can be written as 10 power minus 32. You can use underscores. Oh yeah. Now the other ways we can use underscores within numeric literals. So this will basically specify, like this will act as like a specifier saying that this is the 100th value, 1000th value, and so on. But in advanced stages of standardization, all are implemented by major browsers and board. Earlier, this 2020, this was not implemented, but now it's addition. Now arithmetic operators. So plus, minus, multiplication, division. This for exponent. So there are for complex properties as well, which can that are defined as objects, that are defined as the properties of the math object. Yeah, so it's telling math dot power blah 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 blah. ES6 defines more functions on math. So what all possible functions we can do? Arithmetic in JavaScript does not raise errors in case of overflow, underflow, or division by zero. When the result of a numeric operation is larger than the largest representable number. Okay. So suppose if we exceed the range, it will give us infinity, but it won't give us an error. Yeah, infinity does uh, infinity exists in JavaScript. It is simply a negative or a positive infinity. The zero defined by zero does not have a well-defined value, and the result of this operation is not a number, NaN. So right now we are studying with dealing about numbers. So in numbers we don't get errors. But the answer will be positive or negative infinity. Also 0 by 0 is not 0 by 0 is not a number. We have infinity in JavaScript. To hold the positive infinity and not a number value, these values are also available as properties of the number object. Okay. The not a number value has one unusual feature in JavaScript. It does not compare equal. Now NaN, so there is some important properties of NaN. So whenever we are considering with values, we will use the 3 equal to sign. So NaN will always be equal to itself. Okay, whether the value of variable x is nan instant. So don't use the 3 equality to check whether it's equal or not. Instead we must use something as not equal to or number dot is nan x. Now this will be true only if x has the same value as the global constant nan. The global function is nan is similar to number dot is nan. It returns a true. Okay, now binary, floating point, and rounding errors. There are infinitely many real numbers, but only a finite of them, to be exact, can be represented by JavaScript floating point format. This is basically precision, like how much precision can we get in JavaScript. Yes, so date and times. Now JavaScript defines a date class for representing and manipulating the numbers that represent a date class. So date and time can also be using the date and class, not text. The JavaScript type for represent text the string. String is an immutable ordered sequence of 16-bit values, which are typically represented in Unicode. The length of a string is the number of 16-bit values. The JavaScript strings are use zero-based indexing. The first 16-bit value is at 0 position and the second is at 1 and so on. So it's more sort of like an array, but only thing is it is immutable. And they are iterable, that we can loop on them. So a string is represented by a single colon, double colon, or three colons. Sorry, this is not a colon. This is single inverted comma, double inverted, and an escape character or tilde. Even this is a string. So suppose if you want to loonize, we can use a line terminator as well. Escape characters. Backslash. Now escape sequences are basically used backslash. So we have a lot of rich APIs that we can be used. Substring, slice, split, index of, starts with. A template literals. Now remember, this is a string. So what if we want to write a variable name in this string? So then we use something called as template literal dollar, and the matching is interpreted, everything between the dollar is interpreted as a match, as a JavaScript expression. Everything outside the braces is a normal string. The expression inside the braces is, so whatever we write here, this will be an expression, this will be evaluated and then converted to a string and inserted into the template. So here we will get bill. Or we can do regex masking as well. A boolean values. A boolean value is a truth or false or on or off. There are two possible values, true and false. This is a result of comparison that we make. So this is basically related to operators. We will study them later. They are commonly used in JavaScript. For example, if else statements perform one action on a boolean, you usually combine a comparison that creates a boolean value directly that uses it. The result will, so if this is true, this will run. If this is else, if this is false, this will basically a boolean comparison. It will return a true or a false. Oh, so now all values including now what are, so something so there is something called as truthy and falsy values. For example, these all are falsy values. That means when used in comparison, this will all give me false. So these are falsy values. So something that gives a truth result is a truthy value. Other than that gives a false is a falsy value. Now, none is a language keyword that evaluates to a special value that is usually used to indicate the absence of a value. So null basically, this is no object, that there is no value present here. Then what is undefined? The undefined. Oh, so then when we come to Boolean, we have truthy and falsy values. Strings are immutable arrays. Now null and undefined. Now null basically represents null. This represents when there is no value assigned. This represents when there is no value. Now undefined. Okay, so when the variable is not initialized. So it's not a value in itself. So treat this as program level values over here. So when we say this doesn't have a value, this makes more sense. Or when the user is writing a program. Program level. And this is system level. For example, if I say let a, this will this should print undefined. See, the variable is not initialized. However, when I initialize it with null, now it won't give an undefined. It can be a null. But basically, this also means that there is no value present here. Also, there is one more type that comes as symbol type. How big is the chapter? Oh, it's not that big. So when I say primitive type, basically I'm not, these are not objects, I would say. Incognito. So they are not stored by reference types. These are basically value types. Primitives are immutable, passed by value. Oh, so now the that is what he was trying to say here. Although these are, but there are certain methods that can be applied to them as well. There was some line where you, oh, that was when you were saying that primitives also have methods, unlike objects. If the array is an object, there was a line where he mentioned it. I read it as well. That is the math object. No. For example, here, although these strings are string, they shouldn't be having methods like this. So what he's saying is, even though they are immutable, they are, a wrapper is applied on them. A kind of a wrapper works on them. Oh, it's lagging today. So although these are primitives, oh yeah, passed by value. these have methods, which is a wrapper provided by JS. Template literal, right? Yeah. Yeah, these are primitive types and values. Values are basically what we assign to them. Object type. Okay, now in the preceding sections, we were studying about primitive types and by primitive value, he basically means it's assigned I guess is meaning are assigned by value. So this is holds the value type of 20, and then type of x is what kind of data. But yeah, we know, like, since we are entering, so we already know that this will be a string. But then remember, JavaScript is not human, right? It will read line by line. They are one and the same thing. And the other thing that I was looking for was template literal is okay. If strings are immutable, okay, that should be creating a new string, I guess. Because when we do such operations, since the primitives are primitives are immutable, then when they are assigned to a variable, how can we mutate it? Let's try. Can I say 8 to 10 again? Oh, it still shows me null. Oh, let's print it here. Why is this reassignment happening? I don't know. We haven't studied variables, right? We are just studying with values right now. So what do you mean by immutable? Oh, in this specific thing we can't do. Oh, so what is happening is the original is getting lost. A new number is generated. So if we still print, this value is already lost. Oh, this is okay. A new value is created. What happens to the old data? Is it the original value is not changed? So how to access the original value then? Oh yeah, this is copied by value. So copied by value is a OS concept. No, this is something based on operating system now, I guess. This comes in memory management. Copy is placed. That's what he's trying to say. This will be more clear when we do operating systems. For the timing, let's assume that only the copies are being passed, and if there is no referring to the copies, then the original one is lost. That's what he's trying to say. So although Y and X have same 10, these they both work independently, much like yeah. Okay, now the global object. The preceding section have explained JavaScript's primitive types and values. Objects, arrays, and functions are covered in the chapters of their own book in the later. A global object is a regular object that serves a very important purpose. The properties of these objects are globally defined identifiers, which are available to JavaScript program when the JavaScript interpreter starts or when a web browser loads a new page. It creates a new global object. Okay. The initial properties of the global objects are not reversed words. Now there is something called as global object, and right now let's see what this global object is. Let's type Let's do some code and try getting the global object. What if I do global? Does it print the global object? I think something should come. Or refer. Oh, sorry. Console.log. Oh, I see. This is something called as the global object. If I do global dot something, let's see. Global dot. So see, there are so many objects. Clear immediate, set immediate, clear interval. So I need to do global dot something. Okay, now whenever the global object is a regular JavaScript, that serves a very important purpose. Now the properties of global object is when a JavaScript interpreter starts, or when the web browser loads a new page. That means, what if I'm having modules? A new Win global object is created. Okay. Yeah, constructor functions I cannot see. And see fetch, set immediate, clear interval, set timeout. Mm, as a property name, global is value is the global object. So if you can always refer to the global object by global. Yeah, so this global refers to the global object. This is an object. This is an. This is not a single object. I feel it's an. What does this mean? Is it an array of objects? I mean, now what does this mean? Like when I run. Oh, so this is basically saying that it's an object of global. But when why parent, why square brackets? Oh, so the name of object is generally written in. So this indicates what type of object it is, and this indicates the name. Or it does not have different meaning in different scenarios. Okay, so this here. So this is indicating that it's an object of the type named global. Okay, fair enough. Now let's see what more properties. Can I access any properties over here if I say dot? Let's see what was global. Does it give me this one, circle or something? What do I get the output as? Nothing. It's still giving me the same thing. What if I do something called as clear set timeout? Let's see. Oh, this is a function. I see. So this is circular. How to access this? This is a defined. I guess we will have to define this. Something like that. These might be defined. Set timeout. It shows right that function comes in. Even if I do first set interval, it should give me a. That function comes out, right? Function clear intervals. Okay. Yeah, what is this circular? What is this? Oh. Oh, this is. Oh. Oh, this is a little bit advanced. Let's not get here. So in simple terms, we can say there are certain functions that are in the global object. Now the property of this global object is it is refreshed every time we have a new page or a new, right? And when you are using in the browser, I have the window object. A window object is a self-referential property that can be used to refer to the global. What is this self-referential? Why it is doing that? That is something to discuss. So there is a global object. The global object has a property named global, whose value is the global itself. Oh, this is so confusing. Let's deal this later on when we get to a little bit about references, something like that. Why is this thing down right now? See? The immutable primitive values and immutable object references. Now there is a fundamental difference in JavaScript between primitive values and objects. Primitive, there is no way to change or mutate. This is obvious for numbers and booleans. It doesn't even make sense to change the value of a number. It is not obvious for strings. Strings are occur, you might accept. Yeah, so as I mentioned, what happens is when we create or when we try to mutate a string, a new string generation takes place. The original string is lost. Yeah, compared by value. This is objects are different. They are mutable because we have references. This is the reference. Now, why is this happening? These are reference types. These are compared by references. This is not needed as such. Yeah, sometimes it will do that implicit conversion. Yeah, let's stop here and then we will in the next video we'll dive more deeper into what objects and like what happens in the memory part, I guess. Thanks. Have a great holiday season and have a good weekend as well.